Time now for Can't Take the Heat, built by the Home Depot. Strong words from Paul Feinbaum. A lot of SEC fans were less than pleased when they saw the committee's most recent rankings come out.
Yeah.
4 Big Ten teams ranked in the top 5. Warranted or not, much of the ire was taken out at Penn State. I can see the argument for both sides here, guys. I think when you look at Penn State, you look at the games that they've won, they've only lost one, played it tight with Ohio State. But do you guys think that the strength of conference record, the strength of the conference that you play in, should play more of a factor when it comes to determining the 12-team playoff? Scoob, I'll come to you on this.
I think to an extent it does. Now, I'm sounding a little bit political with this answer, so why not just be straight up? No, it definitely should, because when you look at Penn State and their record right now and the team that they've gone against, they really haven't beat anybody. But then you look at a team like Georgia, all right, who have they gone against? They have one of the most difficult schedules in the country. As you see the strength of schedule ranking right there on the right side of the screen, they're first in the country. And then Penn State, 32nd. I mean, it really doesn't compare in terms of the teams that you were able to play, the wins and the losses that you have had. And what I see, honestly, from the committee, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, because I want to hear it from you, they're kind of rewarding Penn State for losing to Ohio State, because what other reason do you deserve to be in the top 5?
Man, you can't come to me on this situation because you know me.
Let it out.
Now, yeah, I mean, hey, everyone says ESPN bias, the SEC love and all that stuff. Well, unfortunately, I played in the SEC, and I think it's the best conference in all of football. Yeah. And it's true. And I'm a little disappointed in the fact that, like, the SEC, we just kind of keep picking each other off. And the best team in the SEC, the first-ranked team in the SEC is our Chris Sims Texas Longhorns.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're congratulating them on a good win against Arkansas on the road. Now, I know it's Arkansas, it's the rivalry, all that kind of stuff, and, you know, I'll give them a pass on that one. But just when they played Georgia, they got outclassed. And we saw what Ole Miss did to Georgia. We saw what Ole Miss did to Arkansas. You know, and I just think that it's one of the most competitive conferences in all of football. And, you know, the Big Ten, no one's really played each other. You've had Ohio State versus Oregon. You had Ohio State versus Penn State. So Ohio State's really the best battle-tested football team within that conference. But you see right there, the strength of schedule ranking right there. I mean, you know, everyone in the SEC is essentially in the top 50 except for Texas at 56.
Yeah, so if you're a fan and you're looking at this and you're saying, so what? I just need my team to win the games, and it doesn't matter who they play. So for me, that's saying a team like Indiana, and mind you, I love Indiana, but with the 100th strength of schedule, should be ranked in the top 5 versus a Georgia team who has the first most difficult strength of schedule, should be completely out of the college football playoff. Yeah. How is that fair compared to a team that's really challenged themselves? Of course, the question now is, should we just all play cupcake schedules? Because if you're going to get in with your little cupcake schedule where you get to beat up on teams that you're way better than, and we're getting left out because we decided to challenge ourselves, how is that fair, Sam?
It's not. I think James Franklin actually said it before the season started, or maybe it was right after the West Virginia game. Somebody asked him, do you see, you know, you guys continuing to play these out-of-conference games? And he was basically like, no, maybe not, because what's the reward? And we've seen this now come back to haunt and hurt some teams. Now, LSU lost today, but like the USC-LSU game at the start of the year, like that was another game where it was like the winner of this game gets set on the right track and the loser gets set on the wrong track.
Yeah.
And you know, I just don't think that there is, if the committee sticks with the way that things have gone so far, which is basically we're rewarding wins and we're not really rewarding your losses or your strength of schedule.
Right.
I don't see how we have these great games out of conference that have been so integral to the sport continuing to grow. So now, that's a concern for me.
Now, if you say, based on the tape, I just think Indiana and Penn State are better teams. With the way that they play, the way that they've won their football game, it's crisp, efficient football. When you look up and down the roster, they just have more talent. You can say that about Texas. You can say that about Penn State. You just like the talent that's on their team. I completely get that, because when you look at Georgia, although they did play the most difficult schedule, they haven't necessarily looked like a college football playoff offense. So I believe that side of the argument has a point, but then still, if you play a difficult schedule and you're a team like Georgia, who is playing their first home game in 37 days. You've played more ranked games on the road than you have played more games at the crib. You deserve some type of grace, and that is all I have to say.
Let me just play devil's advocate here for just a second, because I think we are all guilty of being blinded by the logos at points. And
yeah, for sure.
If we are going to criticize, let's say, a team like Indiana, who has only beaten one team with a winning record this year, Washington. That's it. We should also apply that same criticism to a team like Texas, who has only beaten one team that has a winning record. And I just don't think that people always go that deep or see that deep into it. But, like, that's a great logo example where the resumes are actually quite similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brand thing, and your belief is that a brand that's been consistent yesterday will be consistent today, which means it'll be consistent tomorrow. And that's really what we're going against. And that's where I think the committee has to do a better job of just try to do your best to take the brands out of it, but really think about, all right, who are they playing? How do they look in those football games? And really, too, just like the punishment as well of certain football teams and how you go about that. Because for Georgia, I think, to move as far down as they did after the loss versus Ole Miss, and then all of a sudden Ole Miss gets catapulted up because of that one game, you know, and then the same thing for Indiana. Indiana has a tough win and very unimpressive looking win against Michigan, and they move up like 5 spots. You know, so I'm not really sure how that really made sense to me. So that's one of those things where, like, we need to just slow down with, like, the aggressive moves in the rankings and the seedings of these situations. And then, of course, you always have the discussion of, like, the Notre Dames of the situation, right, who have their own control over their schedule and their independency, right? And they've earned that because of the brand that they have been through the years. But it's really curious. And, you know, what we're getting to is that every year the question will be, all right, how many SEC teams, how many Big Ten teams, and ACC and Big 12 are only getting one, and the rest, the other two will essentially be Notre Dame and whoever.